Yanko. You get to do the intro today.
Oh no! Hello, hi. I'm Yanko, and this is my lovely friend on the other side. The other side, Kerri Lewis, and we're here for no particular reason, which is the name of our show. Just showing up every Friday to share what's on our minds and connect with you guys and see what's in your minds and have a conversation going on. So, how are you doing, Kerri?
Yeah, I'm in a more subdued mood today. I have my ups and downs, but overall I'm very blessed and joy filled in the state of change and ambiguity. So there you go.
I love ambiguities. I don't know why. I just love that.
So I'm
Yeah,
curious when I ask you. So this is a phrase that I use quite often, but I would be curious to hear what you think about it.
sure.
Wisdom is avoiding all thoughts that weaken you.
Hmm. Wisdom. It's avoiding all thoughts. It's. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it's really true. It's really true. There's different ways to say that, but when there's nothing in that nothingness, there's everything. So, but it's different for everyone. So, how about you?
Well, so here's the thing. First off, good morning to our regular follower, Bonnie, who's been coming in clutch the past couple weeks, showing up and showing out. And Yanko and I appreciate you immensely, as well
We
as Nana and
you.
I,
Good morning.
because you share in the conversation yesterday too. Um, yes. So I'm actually releasing a lot of energy. So if I like pause, guys, it's just me releasing energy. So I experienced a really unexpected loss this week, and the circumstances around this individual's transition to another dimension or another experience was pretty horrific. And I continue to remind myself with that quote, wisdom is avoiding all thoughts that weaken me, to stay in the present moment. And if I'm going to ruminate because our brain thinks about things, right? Then I'm going to choose the thoughts that I have in and around the situation so that they make me feel good rather than make me sit in suffering. Because as anybody who's ever watched this show for the 82 episodes we've had, I choose to live in joy. I mean, we all get to choose our experience, and some people opt to live in suffering, and that gets to be their experience. But I choose to live in joy. And so, for me to stay true to my vision of the experience I want to have, right? I am reminded often by myself, because I've trained my brain very well, uh, to stay in joy, to stay in joyful thoughts rather than focusing on the things that cause me to sit in suffering.
I'm really glad you brought this. I was just gonna say, what does that mean to choose your thoughts? Because some people might be confused about it. And good morning for our regular
Hey,
viewer too. Yes.
hey, thank you, Ben. Is it
So
Shamim?
it might be confused.
Shamim?
Yeah, he's been with us in a couple of
No, I
shows. So good
know, but
morning
like
to
I
you.
always try to say his name, and sometimes I think I butcher it. So Shamim, right? Shamim. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
But it might be confusing to people because they might think that they can actually choose a thought. Um, but because the thoughts are just happening, you're not in control of what thoughts are going to come and go. You can really force the thoughts to stop. And in correct me if I'm wrong, but by choosing your thoughts, you're not. You mean you paying attention to certain thoughts, and then you're just allowing other thoughts to be in the moment instead of just anything else. Am I correct?
Well, I mean, again, you and I have had different experiences, so I can't really say for like your understanding, but for me, using muscle testing, kinesiology, but I don't even need to do that now because I know when I'm in alignment and when I'm out of alignment, which is exactly why I just shared with the listening audience. Like, if I pause, the way I release energy, energy, stagnant energy in my body that like energy that comes from misalignment. I guess that's a way to say it. I like pockets of air are released through my mouth. So that is how I release energy. And I know when I'm out of alignment with truth, which is unconditional love, right? Which is peace. When my body feels icky sticky. And so I becoming aware of the experience my body's having, then make a conscious choice. Because now I don't always like sometimes I go into my default mode of operation and I just get caught up on, oh my god, my cousin passed away, oh my god, this happened, and then I'm like, oh, my body feels gross right now, like I feel tightness and tension. And so then I make a different choice. So I will grab my cup of coffee and smell it. I will feel the steam on my face. I will feel the skull imprint on my coffee. And immediately I'm shifting out of that thinking experience into the present moment. And then for me, and again, I can't speak for you, Yanko. I'm a huge person on celebrating. So I celebrate, oh, hell yeah, baby. You recognize that you were out of alignment. Go for you. Because not only did I come back to the present moment, but a negative energy and a positive energy can't exist in the same plane. So the minute I recognize the awareness, I've neutralized the negative energy. And the minute I celebrate myself, I've now tapped into a more positive vibration, which again, we all get to choose. I was just talking to an individual earlier today who sits in a low vibration. And I said to this individual, that's your job. My job isn't to tell you what to do. It's to love you in that where you're at. It's not to tell you that you have to have a different experience. I just know for myself, I have made a conscious commitment to experience the rest of my human experience in joy. That is my choice. I've made that decision. And so my body will remind me when I'm out of alignment with that intention that I set for myself. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, 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 exactly. That's what I was saying. Because it might sound like to people that you're actually pushing your thoughts away with like a brute force when you say, "I'm choosing my thoughts," because words can be misleading. But
Mm.
you're giving yourself something else, maybe feel sense feeling or something else in the body that allows you to then shift the thoughts that way instead of brute force. Oh, I'm choosing this thought and I'm not choosing that thought or the other thought. For me, it's a bit different. I get caught up on the stuff, like you do. I think it's just part of the whole being human in having a human body experience. But sometimes I'm just like, huh, let me see what is this about. And there's thoughts that are coming in, but I'm just like, okay, you already have the answer. You made up your mind, but let's see. Like, not allowing the thinking mind to dictate how am I gonna uh, react in that situation. And that usually just allows me to be in the present moment.
Well, it's so interesting, especially this week more than in recent times for me. I
Mm,
realize why so many people have physical ailments. Like, you know what I mean? Because immediately my body's like, whoa, Nelly, like you going. But most people from unconscious thought patterns, like they're not even aware.
that's
So I
right.
was talking to another individual earlier this week about self talk, right? And this individual was like, well, it's not like I purposefully poorly to myself, but I would say that I probably do 100%. Nobody ever gets born and says, let's shit all over myself. Like, we don't do that. We go through life having these experiences, taking in information from everywhere. Everything is information that we acquire. And then as a result, we create this pattern. And a lot of the programs people operate in is self talk, and it's negative self talk. And so what I say is once you're aware, you can make a different choice. And once you become aware, you start to realize how your self-talk impacts your physical body because it's not just like your mind you're impacting. If I tell myself I'm a piece of shit, my physical body is like, yo. And then think about it. If you do that over and over for the course of decades, no wonder your body starts cancer. No wonder you have autoimmune diseases. No wonder you suffer from chronic, what is it, rheumatoid arthritis, because all that shit is trapping into your physical body. And until you express it, it's going to cause you physical pain.
That's right. And that's right aligned with even the research that people are doing with placebo and nocebo. You know, so if you think and you react in positive way, your body heals. Even so, there's no like an actual pill or whatever. But
Yep.
then if you do nocebo and you do the opposite, you keep thinking of like, oh, do I have this disease, or I'm having this ache? Maybe I'm sick of this, or maybe there's something else, or my grandparent had this. Well, maybe I'm having that too now, and you start manifesting it in creating it because the body doesn't know the difference. The body just reacts on whatever with the mind's going on. So they're both connected. So
A
I'm
hundred
I'm
percent.
glad I'm glad you brought this up. And it happens to everyone. Just some people verbalize it and some people don't. So you might see somebody walking down and talk to themselves, and and then you might just see somebody walking. It doesn't mean they're not talking to themselves inside.
Yeah,
There is
it's so
something
true.
going on. I saw somebody this week that was this thing. It was just right, and it was saying, "No, I have to deal with this guy." I was so angry, and I turned around and I said, which is this guy? Is it me? Who are we dealing with? He started to laugh.
Yeah.
It was so funny though. Yeah.
But you know what? So at almost every morning during the girls' school weeks, I write them post-it notes. And
Mm.
it's just a little either I love you so much, have a beautiful day, or whatever. So um yesterday night my daughter had borrowed something and she couldn't find it when I asked for it. So she comes in my room really defeated, and she's like, I want to be known as a trustworthy person, and I'm like, whoa, dude, what story are you making up? Like, what the? So I wrote on her post-it note last night for her to wake up with. If we know that the mind makes up stories, and it does, right? um why not make them good stories? And that's my thing. Look, I cannot control. I mean, if I'm in like I do actually, if I'm in awareness and in presence, I'm controlling, like being present. But my mind wanders. It's gonna wander. It's gonna wander. So if I know that it's gonna wander, I'm going to provide it with yummy, delicious, good feeling stories about myself, about the relationships I have, about the experiences I moved through, rather than stories that make me feel icky. Because again, when we're looking at the fact that we're vibration, we're energy, right? Joyful, accepting story is far more powerful than a story about somebody feeling like they're untrustworthy because they couldn't find something they borrowed. That's like, whoa, because that's judgment, and that's guilt, which is a shitty place to live in. So that's why I encourage my kids, listen, I can't take away your thoughts, right? Everybody is having their own perspective, their own reality in their mind, but I can certainly encourage you to decide what reality you want to have, and does it make you feel good or does it make you feel like crap?
And it also depends on like how we're conditioning ourselves. If we're conditioning ourselves to hop from one thing to the other thing to the other thing and have like a less retention span, then yeah, you're not even going to be able to concentrate on like what's going on in the present moment at all or anything at all. So that'll add up to being aware, because that's one other factor that's involved in the whole equation. So yeah, but I'm 100% with you. That when you're not aware of something, then you're not aware of something, and you don't know that it's a problem, or
Yeah.
even if it's there. I think what's his name had a really nice quote, which goes something along the lines of um, if you're not aware, or something along the lines. I'm not 100% in the quote, but if you're not aware of your subconscious mind, um, your thoughts will create your reality, or your thoughts will dictate your reality, and you'll call it a karma, or something like that. I can't remember the whole thing. I'm just having a
Well, it's so
sinner
interesting.
moment.
I was talking to another individual this morning who was getting really down on themselves for the behavior that they had leaned into in past experiences. I said, why get down on yourself? So logically, right? Logically, stealing my mom's sapphire ring, I knew that was wrong. True. However, I didn't, on a subconscious level, purposefully try to cause harm. It was that I was trying to feed the need that my soul had, which was I was super lonely. I mean, and I was really disconnected from anybody in my family. I had no friends because I was quirky and weird. And so what I said to this individual is like, we I could say I was aware, but there was an undercurrent of unawareness that was driving my behavior at that time. And as we do this work, as we give ourselves permission to get curious and to come from a place of non judgment, because that's critical, like really choosing to be nurturing and kind and open to what presents itself without condemning yourself. You peel back these layers and layers and layers until I fundamentally believe, right? Even somebody who's committed murder, right? They could say that that was wrong. But what was their subconscious disconnections that they weren't aware of that drove them to that action in the first place? And that's why I truly believe people really do the very best they can with what it is they know. They really do. And I don't judge anybody. And it's allowing myself to not look at this surface level egoic behavior of an individual, but recognizing that they're caught in these patterns of thinking that have driven them to act in fear or anger or whatever that has caused them to make the choices that they have made.
Yeah, 100%. I won't even say that what's in their subconscious, but I'll just say with their given resources in the moment, because that's what
Yeah.
they have. Not only like what there goes on internally, but also like what's around them. Like if it's a handle, grab to the handle. Like if you're drowning, you're gonna grab to the first thing you grab,
Yeah.
to get yourself going. And I think we found the quote I was talking about. It's by Carl Jung, and
I
it's
love Carl.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, it's until you make your unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. That's the actual quote.
Now, so here's the thing I want to share with the listening audience. And I was telling an individual this earlier this week because I work with people who struggle with addiction. This week, I purposefully drank a fucking shitload more coffee than I typically do. Why? Because when I drink an excess of coffee, it tends to make me a little bit more jittery. And I I choose for the most part to drink water. However, I also know that in many iterations of my human experience, coffee has been very comforting to me. When I was 12 years old, I would drink coffee as a that's what I grew up with. And so this individual, we were talking about habit and addiction and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'm fully aware of the choice I'm making. I'm fully aware that at this moment I am purposefully leaning into this behavior, which is an external behavior, right? And Yanko could say, well, you can sit in a chair and bliss out, and I do that too. But the reality is I'm not going to go through life in a meditative state. I've made that choice that yes, I can achieve that peace laying on my floor or sitting in this. However, I also want to be human. I signed up for a human experience. And so I make that choice.
Yeah, why not
And
take the
that's
course?
awareness. But that's awareness. And so but I'm conscious of it. I literally, oh, I know what you're doing, Kerri. And then I'm like, ooh, that's a good cup of coffee. And I celebrate it, and that's where I have found all the work that I have done has culminated into this real self-love for myself. Even when I'm doing something that on another day I might be like, yeah, I'm not going to lean into that behavior because I know it might not serve me long term.
Right. I don't know. Even if you recognize it, I think it's something that I think it's the desire behind it, that it still have the energy that pushes it on. In it's like some of the books that are saying, "Oh, it's all power running out." That's exactly what it is. You had a desire, and you still there's energy behind it that drives that desire to complete itself. Um,
Well,
so
also,
yeah.
I really fundamentally believe what you resist persists. Like, think
Mm,
about this. How many people have experienced loss or a traumatic event, and they never allow themselves to feel their feelings about behind it? I hear this all the time within communities. Oh, just get through it. Just, I did what I had to do. I The problem is that emotion, that energy is still trapped in your body until you get permission to release. And so for me, I want my coffee. There's energy behind it. I'm gonna enjoy that damn coffee. It's gonna be quite enjoyable. I'm gonna beat myself up about it. And in that behavior, I've overcome many addictions to alcohol, to drugs, to sex, to work, because I never forced myself to stop doing the thing. In conjunction with doing and leaning into the behaviors that I currently had, I taught myself new behaviors. First with gratitude practice, breath work, working out, grounding, blah, blah. So eventually, instead of forcing myself to stop a behavior that was quote unquote bad for me, which is subjective anyway, but I just learned new behaviors in conjunction with my old behaviors. And the new behaviors felt more supportive. So I leaned into them more often. And like this week, there was no part of me that wanted to go to the gym most of the days. I woke up and I wanted to just sit in my bed and in my feelings and blah. But I allowed myself to feel my feelings for a little bit. And then I said, going to the gym might feel really good. And every single time I came home and I was like, oh, that was so delightful. And I leaned into that behavior rather than going for a bottle of alcohol or yelling at people in my family because of the responses that they're having around loss. And yeah, so
I think in a different way, you're 100% on that. If, say, your body is antenna and you resonate at certain frequencies and you attract those energies like the antenna, do you have to go through the antenna down the wire or from the one side to the other side? So it's not that you're controlling it or doing anything, it's just that it's different. And when that happens, the body reacts differently and you go like, ooh, this feels this way, oh, I don't want to feel this or whatever. But it's just there. It'll pass on and it'll move on, and just how it is with the body. So
Well, and that's, I can't speak for you, but I know that even in deep suffering, right? When Nan and I were going through 4 miscarriages, and, I mean, he and I experienced a lot of strife in the beginning of our relationship. And when I was going through divorce, right? I sat in a lot of joy because I sat in this understanding that I was releasing what no longer served me in this pain that was opening up a pathway for me to experience even more joy. And also knowing, right? Like there, Nana said it yesterday, and I was like, oh crap, right? He said, life is like an EKG machine. Once it's flatlined, there's nothing. So we're meant to have the ups and downs in life. And when you can appreciate the whole of your experience, you can sit in joy even when you're moving through some really icky, sticky, challenging experiences that feel hard.
I love that.
Me
With
too.
the
I was like,
EKG machine, yeah, this is so good. I know, because
I know.
otherwise he's just like flat. It's just like, you know. But yeah, you have to have the opposites to be able to have that awareness of what is and what is not, or the one sided the other. Is like, otherwise it's nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even the word nothing, it's still something behind it.
You know what's interesting? So Billy, my youngest, asked me. She's my movie girl. She will cuddle up with me and we'll watch a movie. And I like to show her old romance movies. But anyway, she's like, "Mom, I want to watch a never ending story." Oh my God, do I love this movie? And it talks about the nothingness, but the nothingness is basically apathy. People choosing not to dream, choosing not to have imagination, not chasing after, what feels good for them. And and Billy even said, she's like, now that I'm 16, Ma, I had no idea the deeper meaning of this movie, like the context of this movie, and really teaching people we are masters of our own human experience, that we can create any experience we want so long as we're aware of our thoughts and we intentionally create the experience that we want to have rather than just feed into societal narratives. And I'll give you a real life example for myself. So yesterday, my niece came up and she felt she was so defeated. She just went through the last class of home buying. Her and my nephew, they're 22, 23, and working to buy a house, and they just felt she was so like, no matter how hard I work, Kerri, you can't get ahead and stuff. And I found myself falling down this rabbit hole with her, and then I was like, whoa, that's not the experience I have. That's not truth. That does not have to be truth. It's just that is what the collective consciousness, right, is experiencing, because most people operate in fear. And so she is part of that collective consciousness because she's not aware, right? And it's not for me to change that experience for her, because I believe that we're meant to go through the things we go through to open ourselves up on our own timeline. But again, I was like, and then I'm like, whoa, that's not even true. And I said to somebody else earlier this week, I'm like, what we're experiencing in the world right now is just a collective consciousness unfolding and manifesting. It is the bulk of the people's thinking that has to make manifest. And so we're just bearing witness to the collective belief system and habits and behaviors of the multitude of one. And and I don't even know how to say this guy's name, but this guy who, I don't know, his stuff popped up on my page, which is so true. It's like it does take effort and energy to break the ideology of the collective consciousness, but once you do, you just laugh at it because you know it's not real in the first place. And I do know that. I'm just like, oh, so I fell into that old pattern, and then I immediately was like, oh no, 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 no. That's not the story I'm creating. My never-ending story is unfolding in joy and abundance, and things come to me easily. I'm not worried about things being hard because I am more concerned with being aware of what's running in my internal narrative so that the experience I create is one that was purposeful and intended, not one that I just went along to get along with the collective and achieved.
Right. There's different levels of awareness, because most of the people are just aware of themselves. Because, like, what's in for me, they're operating of this separateness because they think they're a separate thing. I mean, but part of the school, I think, is just to come in and you have that separateness experience. Oh, you're an individual, or you have to fight and to survive and do all these other things, and like you're not part of the equation, but everything is. And the more you go back to that awareness of like, oh, I'm actually a piece of this whole thing, I'm not a separate thing, then that awareness changes. And then you start feeling the rest of the wholeness around you, how it's like pushing you around, and you do the dance.
Hey,
That's
Bonnie,
why those things come up.
Bonnie, me and Yanko are still learning too. The more we do this work, the more we're like, we have no idea about anything. And I actually did see something a few days ago, and I had to chuckle because it's like consciousness creation created, I mean, I say 8 billion because it's people, but it's infinite, right? Infinite expressions of creation, and because it's infinite expressions, I don't know that one expression knows the whole. And so we're always like, I'm always like, and Yanko and I have had this conversation when we think we know. I'm like, I fucking don't know shit. I just
Exactly.
know that. I just, I just know.
I love it.
I'm
That's
like, but
exactly right.
I don't, but I do know that in my not knowing, I get to choose the experience I want to have in that unknown, and I'm choosing joy every day. And also, universal laws, right? I sent this to my girls yesterday or the other day because, to your point, so often human beings are like, it's what's in it for me. But every single person I've ever talked to, no matter how unaware they are, they will always say they feel better when they show up in service to somebody else, when they open the door for them, when they just feel better. So inherently, underneath all of that, what's in it for me, we all know that we're connected because we wouldn't be driven to be of service if we were not, right?
That's
And
exactly
so
it.
100%, and it just feels good. It's like, oh, that felt really good. I don't know why I did that, but it felt good. So I'm gonna be like, okay. But so in that, right, there are laws that are non-negotiable, right? The law of what I send out into the world is coming back to me. That's just law. Like, so that, because if we're part of a collective, if I'm causing harm to another person, I'm causing harm to myself. That's just a law, right? There's a law of polarity, right? There's a law of rhythm and vibration, of transmutation. So these things are non-negotiable no matter how conscious or unconscious you are. So this is where I encourage my daughters who are 16 and 17, like, get comfortable with these laws, because if you know that if you sit here and run your mouth and talk shit about other people, well, guess what? That's coming back to you. If you are really, really joyful, well, the reality is there is an that you're gonna experience, because to Nana's point, it's an EKG machine. It isn't just all the time. Like it's going to end up being, the opposite of blissed out. And when you know that, it becomes much more palatable to navigate life, because you don't feel victimized by it anymore. You have the tools to really understand what's unfolding, not just within yourself and your own world and family, but within the entire collective consciousness and creation itself.
Yeah, you have a better understanding of what's going on, so you don't attach to whatever it's going on. Like if you're highs, and if there's no highs, you'll be like, well, why there's no highs? But you have to have the separations, you have the lows in order to understand the highs and all those other things. But
Yeah.
I love that EKG machine. This is so good.
I never even, I mean, leave it to Nana to just whip that. I mean, I just like, of course. I mean, listen, my ego really enjoys that person. So we have a good time. And this week, let's pivot real quick. This week, Nana and I have made some outrageous content, right? But you know why I just enjoy Nana? Nana doesn't try to fix me. Nana doesn't tell me everything's going to be okay, everything, you feel better. Nope. But you know what he damn sure knows how to do? He will make me laugh on a dime with the most ridiculous thing. And then in my crazy Kerri head, I'll be like, yo, babe, let's make this video of me grabbing your dick. And he'll be like, sure. And then we do it, because why not? And then we have the greatest time. And my girls say to Billy in particular, she's like, Mom, you laugh at just like the stupidest stuff. And I'm like, well, why not? If I want to experience joy, why am I not going to laugh? And she
All
was
right.
like, but you guys are just so ridiculous. And I'm like, but that's life. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, if you're not taking it seriously, like you're having fun.
Yeah.
I had something similar. Somebody say to me, "I'm amazed how easy you crack up," and I'm like, "Why not? I don't take things seriously. Like I'll crack myself up for anything." You know
I
what I mean?
know. It's
Uh,
true. Our,
yeah.
our dear friend Nanda Matari, who's a global meditation teacher, by the way, and I love her. She went up and did stand-up comedy, and I totally understand why she did that, because everything has an undercurrent of hilarity to it, and we just take ourselves so seriously. And you know what, I'm going to tell you, this is a real story. So I go to this TRX class at the Y twice a week, and it's a regular group of people.
Oh, I
Now
didn't know that.
yeah, so I I have this regular group of people, and there's this older gentleman. He's probably in his early 60s. He and I, it's TRX, so you strap yourself in these straps. So the trainer will be like, all right, guys, mount up, and when you're ready. And me being me, of course, I'm gonna say, I'll tell you what, when I mount up, I'm ready. And then this guy, Scott, he will totally, so the two of us are constantly saying out of pocket stuff. And so there was this one woman who I love her to pieces, but she I could tell she felt really uncomfortable. But I'm like, listen, I'm showing up and having a good time. If I'm sitting here putting my body through a hard workout, I'm gonna have a good time while I do it. Well, yesterday, this woman who I would have chalked up as a little bit uptight, right, comes out of nowhere and says, do you know that Fanny but means vagina in England? And I had no idea. And then she's like, Randy means somebody who's really sexual. And I'm like, oh my God, where'd this come from? And I thought about it. And you know what it is Scott and I showed up fully expressed in our humorous, unapologetic way for so many classes that she was like, I'm gonna ride that crazy train too. And it was an awesome class. Even
Well,
the trainer said to me later, because she came, we were talking after the class, and she's like, I was shocked. And I was like, you and me both, girl. It was a good time.
Well, see, you're breaking everyone's I don't know, ideas or boxes of whatever they're
Yeah.
putting the reality around themselves. Like you did that with the first lady, and then the other one also, get to a point where she's like, I'm in shock because that doesn't exist in her reality.
Well, but again, that's why, you and me have talked about it. Everybody's like, "What do you do, Kerri?" I struggle with labels because honestly, I create in creation. If you want me to give you a label about what I do, I create. I could say I'm an entrepreneur. I have a couple of different things I do. I could say I sing. I could say, but the reality is I do whatever my heart calls me to do in the present moment, and I don't limit myself. And that's why I hear it all the time. How could you be so spiritual and so inappropriate? And I'm like, well, what is it? What
See,
is one
that's
or the other
another
in the
that's
first
another
place?
idea. That's another idea.
Yeah,
I
like
read
what?
that. I read that in a lot of the books where they say, "Oh, they follow the guru, and one day the guru was inappropriate, and he's not a holy man because he's doing inappropriate things." You know.
Yeah, and
But
I'm
when
like,
you're in the being, so
and
yeah.
moreover, look, boundaries, right? I mean, I've made a commitment to share in a physically intimate relationship with Nana. And that I hold sacred because that's my babe. Like that is my ride or die bestie, man. However, he knows me. He knows I am so outrageous. And but I'm not gonna go walk up to Scott and grab his dick because that's just not okay in my world. So here's the thing: is like I do what feels good for me in the moment, and I'm not concerned with how it's perceived to other people, because if I can look at myself at the end of the day and feel good about who I am, which I can 100% of the time, then I can rest easy and be okay with the full scope of who I am rather than who you think I need to be because I'm a coach or I'm spiritual or I sing or I'm a mother or I'm a lover or whatever.
And this is the idea. Right? So if you have that label or idea about yourself, that's what's going to happen. Because when the reality pushes you around, or the flow pushes you around, let's say the flow is flowing with the river, there is rocks and other things going around pushing you around, then those things are going to come up and you're going to have the ideas and you're going to resist based on your ideas about yourself, of how you should be or what you should be and all those things, instead of just being in the flow. So even if you give up control, which is scary for a lot of people because you're going in the unknown and you don't know, like, if you lose control, what's going to happen next. But the reality of things is that if you understand yourself and you observe yourself, you're going to see that either with your choice or without your choice, things are happening. When things are happening, you have the choice. You either go with what's happening, or you resist it and you create suffering because you
Yep.
have that idea of how something should you know end up being, or how an outcome should happen. And I personally experimented with that idea of not doing anything, just let's say I'm just going to sit under a tree and I'm not going to do anything. Well, the body is breathing, the birds are gone around. There could be a bird on the top of the tree that poops on the top of me, and other things that are going
I want
around.
to see
I'm
that,
not doing.
Yanko.
I'm not doing anything, but I am in the doing. So I'm part of the doing. Even if you don't do anything, the doing it's doing you. So it's happening. Either you like it or not.
Well, that's why again, I think that no, I'm going to rephrase. I know for me, my power lies in choosing how I experience everything unfolding. Because and again, I've watched this play out with, people I love this week, right? I see that change. right? When somebody passes away, really it's just change. You're shedding their meat suit. That's my understanding. But
I'm exactly the same way.
yeah,
But people get and they expect you to react a certain way based on their beliefs.
yeah.
And I'm
Well,
sorry I interrupt. Go
no,
ahead.
no, no. Go ahead. I
That's
interrupt
what I
you
was
all the
gonna.
time. What are you talking about?
That's what I was gonna. That's what I was gonna say. Like, if you don't react in a certain way and they don't get the outcome they expect from you, they think that something's wrong with you, and they go like, "Well, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting this way?" Because like normality is to maybe cry, or normality is to like fine, you have a different understanding. Nothing's wrong with that, and you can have that in different situations,
Yeah.
or
Well,
even if you're just
go ahead.
even if you know people will go because there's nothing. If there's nothing going on, there's nothing to express anything in the moment because it's quiet. There's no waves. You know what I mean? Like there's nobody home, and somebody will look at you and say, "Well, what are you thinking? Like I supposed to think all the time?" And if I say I'm not thinking of anything, I'm just being. I'm in the moment. But then they go like, "No, no, no, you must be thinking of something."
Well, it's so interesting because I hear a lot of people, they either have their phones on in the background, they have music on when they're driving and whatever, and they I've been told many, many times, "Oh, if it's quiet, my thoughts are too noisy." And I'm like, "Oh, I."
Ooh, yeah.
But I do
Escape
wanna go
yourself.
back I do wanna go back to the point of when people experience change and they come from fear, they tend to grasp for control and they tend
Mm,
to present as angry or like, and you see this division occurring. That's what I've experienced, this real division.
mm.
And for me, when change happens, I always look at it as an opportunity to unify, to okay, like again, even in this situation of having somebody transition, I was able to connect with other individuals I haven't talked to in years. And so I look at it as an opportunity to unify rather than divide. And it really is about the only thing we can control at the end of the day is our response to what's going on. We can't control what's unfolding. I have no control, but I can control my internal narrative around what that is. And to your point, Yanko, fortunately for me, I've been labeled crazy my whole life. So now I wear it as a badge of honor. But I will say for a really long time, that offended the hell out of me. I was like, what the fuck? I'm not the crazy person. Now I'm like, I best be considered crazy because if not, I'm conforming and I ain't even down with that.
I mean, you probably choose that for a reason because, like, knowing you and you sharing stories about your grandma or somebody that was the crazy in the family.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
she
So,
taught me to fully express. I thank her
I
every day. In
know.
fact, I'm looking at a picture right now. Hi, Lillian. Um, yeah. But you're right. I did choose it. It's so interesting. So Deepak Chopra interviewed this medical doctor who ended up having a massive heart attack and was in comatose for I want to say a month. It's a fairly significant amount of time. While he was comatose, this MD, this medical doctor who actually look him up, he is world renowned for kidney transplants and using pig organs in
Hmm.
human bodies to be able to save them. But anyway, so he says to Deepak Chopra, um, while in this state of comatose, he remembers performing operations every single day for 30 days on people in like the 1800s where there wasn't the equipment we have. Like vividly, he never saw his face, but he vividly remembers. And he asked Deepak Chopra, what's that about? And Deepak says, well, you were attached to the story of healing people as a medical doctor. So, in another state of consciousness, you did the same thing. And I say that to say, I'm clearly attached to being outrageous because I'm definitely an outrageous person. And I like that about myself. So whether I've been that way in past lives or past dimensions or not, I have definitely learned to embrace the idea that I'm considered crazy by some rather than look at it as a limit or something that's bad about me, which I did for a long time.
I mean, again, there isn't anything bad. This is all
Right.
like ideas, and and this is where people go like, whoa, 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 hold your horses. What do you mean? There's nothing bad. There's like all kinds of bad things going on with people and things around and everything. Everything is just is. What do you give meaning to it? That's what it becomes. Whatever it means to you. And I was watching a video with somebody the other day explaining that exactly to people. She brought in one person on the stage and showed that person sunglasses and says, "All right, those sunglasses are pissing you off. Tell them like you're bad sunglasses. You ugly, this and that, and this and that." And then they go like, "Oh, you bad and this and that." And then he goes like, "Okay, now they're really cool. Like tell the sunglasses like, oh, you really cool sunglasses, this and that." And then it brought in and then and says, "Did the sunglasses change? Did anything happen to them? No, they're just sunglasses. But how you
Perceive it.
you know perceive it, that's what it becomes."
Yep.
So I'm just clarifying that there's nothing bad. You actually give your meaning to a situation, something, and you make it better, good, or whatever you want. Yeah.
Yep, 100%. Well, it's so interesting you say that because I just took somebody into meditation recently. They were challenged with a decision to make, and so I put them in a calm state, and I had them experience a decision one way in their body, their thoughts, their mind, and then we cleared that, and then I had them experience a decision making a different choice. And ultimately, all you have to do is experience it and decide which experience you want, because look at, to your point, we are being, but we're experiencing stuff. We're just going to
Mhm,
experience stuff because we're having a
mhm.
human experience. So
Yeah,
we have
exactly.
to
Yeah.
experience stuff. So ultimately,
That's why we're here.
yeah, so ultimately it's what do you want to experience? And going back to the very beginning of this show, I can experience suffering or I can experience joy. And I have made a commitment to myself to experience joy while in this human experience. And even if I move through change that is seemingly catastrophic, right? I experience joy in that because that's the experience that I want to have in the rest of this lifetime that I have.
I mean, if you go back to that, what I was just talking about, the glasses, if you, everything in there need is joy. It's new.
Yep.
Nothing changes it. So that's, you're not changing anything. You're just being in the joy. That's your default mode of operation.
And with that, I'm gonna respond to Bonnie because it came up to me. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're having a good time. That's from the Minions movie, which they also say,
Awesome.
which I love. They're like, banana.
Which movie is that? Is that the
The
Minions or
Minion movie.
oh the
Banana.
Minions?
Or
Banana.
it could be, wait, it could be Despicable Me too. I don't remember. And,
Okay.
it's I gotta tell you, man, Disney and
When you did
Pixar be
that,
coming out
when
with
you
some
did that for a
bangers.
second, when you did that for a second, I thought of Beavis and Butthead, where they're like, ah, that's
No,
exactly
no
what I thought
joke.
about.
My brother-in-law laughs at me because I always say that Luke Bryan, the country singer, reminds me of is it Beavis, the blonde-haired guy? Anyway, I'm like, "Look at this Beavis." He's like, "You're so fucked up." I'm like, "I'm not trying to be mean. It's just like that's who I see when I see him."
uh,
Oh my
I
god. All
think
right.
those, I
This
think the
is a
stories we
great
allow
note to
ourselves.
end on.
Oh, cool. Let's wrap it up then.
Let's wrap it up. Okay. Um, yes, wrap it up if you don't want to have babies because that sperm be really, 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 really tenacious. I'm just saying.
In another reality, yes. Not in this present moment.
No, that is very true. That is true. And I clip my tubes, so there will be no wrapping of the banana.
Well, thanks for sharing, Kerri. That was very insightful.